Before we get started, this video is sponsored by FaB Foundry, one of the first Flesh and Blood specialized game stores in the world, a pillar of the local FaB community in Portland, Oregon, a world tour organizer, and my personal favorite LGS. FaB Foundry is your one-stop shop for all things FaB related, whether that's singles, sealed product, playmats, sleeves, dice and tokens, especially featuring products from Metal FaB and Thai cards. FaB Foundry also offers a rewards program which you can use to get store credit back on all your purchases. So please go check out FaB Foundries, support our local community in Portland, and use our promo code FleshandBad for a discount on your next singles order.
Rats, we're rats, we're the rats. We pray at night, we stalk at night, we're the rats. I'm the giant rat that makes all of the rules. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get ourselves into.
Hey everyone, welcome back to more Flesh and Bad, and today we're going to be playing some Marlynn. So, no crazy new Marlynn developments really. I kind of just wanted to have an excuse to kind of play the deck again, because again, it's kind of the deck I've probably been having the most fun with. Jarl's another like fun deck, but I think a lot of the lists are leaning a lot more fatigue, which makes the content a little bit worse. So, I don't know. I think Marlynn is honestly my favorite, at least content deck, to kind of play around on stream. So, yeah, we're gonna kind of talk about the deck list today. There's not a ton of changes. I think the only new addition is maybe like swapping the Loan Shark for Codex Bloodrot. I think this card's been very impressive to me. Just kind of like a 0 for 2 buff. If you're counting that the opponent doesn't play for Bloodrot, which the majority of the time they won't. And then also getting a Ponder token is like a pretty big deal. So I feel like this is really like a very nice glue card for the deck. At a 2 of, because I think like 3 gets a little bit excessive, but I've been liking this card a lot as kind of like a pseudo 0 for 2 pump at yellow that also kind of just synergizes super well with like reload and stuff. Just very, very impressive. This list does not have the new card yet. So this card list does not have Catch of the Day. I think that the card that's going to probably slot in for is either Bolt and Shot. I think there's also maybe an argument to like swapping like Tipple or like C4 Salvage. But the way a lot of the decks are shaped up, like Bolt and Shot doesn't really matter a ton. And then also like hitting Bolt and Shot off of random things like Quiver. Like Bolt and Shot's never really been like a super high value card, although the reload on it is nice. In general, I think this card is just kind of pretty forgettable. So that's going to be where the Catch of the Day is probably going to go. And there's also going to probably also be an additional sideboard slot for the new Fable that we saw released. So that, let me actually pull that one up real quick. So it's Taya. Yeah, so Authority of Ataya is the new gem from Super Slam. When this is pitched, defense reaction cards cost an additional red to play this turn. So this card actually, I think, works quite well with Marlynn. Just if you have a turn where you can turn off like the net downside of Overpower, this card is going to be pretty impressive, I think. So I'm super excited to try out this card in Marlynn too, because I think this is also going to be a very decent sideboard piece to the deck as well. Yeah, but with that, let's go ahead and get into some games, try it out, and see how it goes. All right, it's playing against some Gravy. It looks like they're going to have the die roll. I imagine they're probably going to put us on second. What do I typically cut in this matchup? I typically cut like the Codex of Bloodrots. I think they're a little bit below average, although they are putting us on first, which is kind of interesting. There is also some merit to just leaving though. I think like Lace is another card you can kind of cut a bit. It's maybe even like 2 Lace, cut the Codex is maybe how I kind of like to board. And then I think we're gonna. So there is an argument to running Skullbone Crosswrap, but in general, I think I like trying to crack the gold with Dominion on turn 0. So let's try like this. All right, and we've got a pretty good opener. King Shark obviously quite nice, especially now that Gravies are running a couple more attack actions. It looks like they're also boarded up for fatigue here potentially. So I think with this hand, we're not even going to crack the gold. Like normally I like going off the gold if I'm not able to like generate more. But I think here we're basically guaranteed to hit with the King Shark. So I kind of like this. I think there's also maybe some merit there to like not playing the take game, C4 Salvage, crack golds. But then you're not sending a ton of damage, which I think is kind of weak. Like, I think it's actually kind of fine against Gravy to go off an Arsenal a lot of the time. We are being a little bit cavalier with our hook here, but I think in general, Gravy also doesn't run a ton of D-Reacts, so I kind of don't mind this play. There is some risk here involved. Like, they could very easily like double D-React and maybe give us some armor or something, but I think that I'm also kind of happy with that exchange. All right, so coming for 10 on turn 0. And we get to take a nice little Jittery Bones. So wait, why didn't they block with the Jittery Bones instead? Kind of interesting. Maybe they wanted to give me some free gold. I'm not going to say no to that. Ooh, and this is a pretty nice hand. We have 3 oak plus some blues, and then pretty good setup here. They also don't have any starting gold, so putting an ally in the bin might be semi unreliable, although it looks like they're going to hit a chum off the top. Little unfortunate here. But not the end of the world. That can be cleared with the Elephant Harpoon. And then we can maybe try to like pre-med it, Arsenal 3 Oak, something like that. Definitely depends on what they want to set up here. Just coming in with the Murderous Rebel here. I think I'll just say no blocks. It's very dependent here on which ally they want to play out. If they want to play out the chum, then we're probably just taking a turn to set up the elephant. All right, 2 chums in the bin. All right, so a little unfortunate on our end, but that's fine. Probably going to get the opportunity to steal a gold here. I don't think we really need to block, although there is maybe some merit to just like blocking with port side plus gold baited hook, just to deny the little points of value here. I'm kind of fine just like letting them have a gold though. I think it might just be better to let them have the gold because I think next turn we're kind of committing to taking a couple off turns just to kind of clear these chums. So we'll start with the pre-med. And they could actually give us the opportunity to go around the chum. They have a second chum, so it might actually, if they give us the opportunity, it might be better to just like go face. Definitely debatable here. Let's, I guess the question is, do I want a port side here? I think the port side is like pretty low opportunity cost. We refresh the gold, and then we also get to draw a new card, so like we're getting the same kind of resource. Like the only downside is if we draw into like a red or something. But I think it's in general fine to maybe just go for the port side here. Right, big game trophy shot's interesting. Probably not useful right second. So now it's yellowfin. We can actually use this for pitch now and just kill the chum right now. Which I think I kind of don't mind, but the only problem is they have a second chum lined up. So the question is whether or not I want to commit to this one. I think we should probably just try to clear the chums. Like, we're going to have to take a couple off turns, I think, and just deal with these, which feels pretty bad. I think getting them out of the way now is preferable to just letting them sit for a bit. So next turn, they're probably going to play another chum. We can maybe just go for like a King Kraken somehow. We probably have to like do a couple little awkward things. Might be trying to just set ourselves up with like a Codex in Arsenal next turn. They do potentially have the ability to go double wide on an ally here, which would also be a bit scary. Right, come in with the sloop as well. I think we'll say no blocks on that. Opponent is presenting some pretty good damage here. There's the Loan Shark as well. So they do not have go again on this, which is quite nice. So the question is whether or not we want to give them some extra gold here. I'm almost kind of fine to just let them have the gold. I feel like my plan, or we could actually just go for like Sleep Dart, like block like this. We could Codex. Well, the problem is the Codexes are also super awkward. So maybe we give her like 1 Codex plus the King Kraken. No, that also doesn't work. What if we gave the Sleep Dart plus the Codex? We pitch the Codex to 3 Oak, load the King Kraken, and then just try to ignore the Sawbones, I think is maybe prudent. And then I think this might be as decent an opportunity as any to just give the gold baited hook here, just to deny a little bit of extra value. They're already sitting on a ton of gold, so the extra gold doesn't matter, but the gold might matter for us, which I think is more relevant. All right, so let's go ahead and send the 3 Oak here. They do notably have another chum in the bin, which I'm a bit scared of. I think in any case, we're still just going to crack hook here and force some action. If they want to try to break my hook, I think that's also fine. As long as we can get some cards out of them, because I think right now they have the tempo, and I'd rather try to strip the tempo from them. If I have to like give the gold baited hook to do that, I think I'm fine with that. So if we get like D-React maybe plus like 3 block on armor plus a 3 block from hand, I think that's a reasonable exchange. Sunken Treasure is also another good one to get around the overpower. So we could be looking at maybe like a 4 block here, or Sunken Treasure plus D-React plus another 3 block or something. That definitely work. Alright, looks like they're going to give a 6 block here, so I'm potentially expecting a D-React here if they want to try to just go for the hook break. I think if I can put them on a low card count, that'll help us try to buy back a little bit of tempo. Also, not Founder Swells, which is another kind of important card in the matchup. So there's the Blood in the Water. Not entirely unexpected. So Hook will be gone, unfortunately. But not the end of the world. I still think a lot of the time you do need a threatened Hook just to like force them to have stuff. Because like the Hook there basically also like kind of ate their armor, which we're pretty happy about. Alright, they are sitting on a pretty decent sized mountain of gold here though. Definitely concerning. There's the Leyline pitch as well. This card's surprisingly powerful now that Tipple's gone. Just being able to get like 5 value out of your yellow is pretty decent. But I do like seeing it in pitch here because it means they're not going like up on resources. Alright, just following up with a sloop here. So I think we'll say no blocks on this. I imagine they might be trying to follow up with like a chum here, which they still have in the bin. So yeah, they might try to go for like chum plus Sawbone swing or something if they have like another blue in hand. They do also have the dead threads available to them. Although they haven't put an ally in the bin yet, so they actually cannot dead threads just yet. Alright, there's the chum, which we fully saw coming. Alright, and the chum swing as well. So here I think we're just putting the port side exchange in front of this. And then I think our turn is we're more than likely than not just going to be sending a red pin at the chum just to clear it. They do get to buy back tempo a bit, which is a bit unfortunate. Like the double chum thing this early on is I think not ideal for us. So let's go ahead and pre-med. I want to see if I can try to force a little bit of action on the chum. I'm almost halfway tempted to just sack a gold here and see what happens. I guess maybe we'll go for 3 oak and see if they want to chum in response. So actually, this is an important thing. Since there are 3 Marlynn triggers on the stack, I think if we want them to not have priority window, I think we have to do it on the last Marlynn. Otherwise, they'll have the ability to chum in response. So now we load. I think we're going to force this chum to just eat it. So now I think we're forcing the chum. And I guess do we want Arsenal Tipple or do we want Arsenal like one of these? I think we'd rather just Arsenal Tipple. So they're not going to activate chum here. Very interesting. All right, we're going to fire a face. So I think since we draw the King Shark and we have the pre-med buff up, I think it's a little bit better to just try to threaten their hand so they're not able to like convert a lot of the value they have on board. Like I think we actually might be at a point where like we can't even afford to clear chum because they're kind of pretty far ahead, at least in the board position. Like I think at this point we just kind of have to force them to try to use their chum. Alright, so there's the compass as well. Hope we can hit another attack from hand. I feel like the gravy lists are a lot more attack heavy at this point. Alright, discarding an Oyston. So we got 3 cards out of hand here, which I'm pretty happy about. I guess the question is what the 4th card in hand is. I had to get to Sawbones Prevent as well, so coming in for 3 over. Alright, last card was also Conqueror, so pretty big King Shark there. And it means they're also not going to... They can only swing if they're chum next turn. Right. So I think we arsenaled the seafloor salvage before the tipple, right? Because we want to be able to turn over the Oyston. All right, I think I'll say no blocks on the chum. Just kind of force some action here, I think. So we'll start with the seafloor and see if they want to chum in response. So they don't want to chum in response to that. That's fine. So now we can start with the tipple, I think. We might honestly just be tippling face. Let's go ahead and pitch, I think, the other tipple. Get rid of the goldfin. And see what we draw into. Oh, swell is a fantastic draw. So sleep dart's fine to leave. I think we're just going to leave it like this. And then I think if they don't chum here, we actually get to swell down the sawbones, which is quite a big swing. This is also one of the reasons why I put swell over drop the anchor in this deck, because I think swell kind of does like a pretty good job of like clearing some of these more annoying allies in the deck. Like most allies, I think in graveyard are centered around like 3-ish health. And you also get the added like high roll potential like you saw there. So swell I think is actually kind of my preferable card in this matchup over like drop the anchor. All right, so let's go ahead and close chain here. And then depending on whether or not they want to chum here, we might just send this King Shark, honestly. Let's go ahead and grab that King Shark. No reason to crack gold here or anything. I think, honestly, at this point, we might honestly be trying to arsenal a Sleep Dart because we still have our Sarong up. And we can, like, pump the Hammerhead, do that. There's also maybe an argument to big game trophy shot, but if we're leaving the chum alive, I think it's actually better to try to arsenal the Sleep Dart here. And just send 10 overpower in hand. Like, if they're just attacking with chum every turn, I don't think they're winning that game. Let's see what we got in the deck. So Fearless Confrontation is a little bit scary. We also got Money Where Your Mouth Is. Not super relevant. This is kind of an interesting sideboard option, but obviously taking Swell there just to deny them a few resources. I think that seems reasonable. This hand is fine. I think it's definitely dependent a little bit on whether or not this Swell actually ends up hitting. But there's actually quite a bit we can do with this hand. We can like Sleep Dart plus Swell on the chum. Ooh, hitting another Swell off the top, but their Swell miss, which is really great. So definitely happy to see that, although they do get an extra 3 points of value here still. And they still have that Money Where Your Mouth Is in hand. I don't actually know if I can buff allies. I didn't actually take the time to read it. Or is it only attack? I think it's any attack, right? Because you can do it on like Betsy Hammer. It's been a while since I've seen this card. So let's start, I think. Do we want to start with the Sleep Dart or do we want to start with the Swell? I guess let's start with the Sea Lace and see if they want to respond to that with the chum. Right, so they don't want to respond to that with a chum. That's fine. Let's then, I guess, try to clear this chum. So yellow on top, unfortunate, but not the end of the world. Then I think we Sleep Dart down the chum. Just so we get it out of the way, I think. I think it's reasonable to kind of like take the time to clear. So we'll let theirs, doesn't matter. All right, so we're basically out of allies at this point, which is a great spot to be in. They are still sitting on some gold, which is a little problematic. So we're gonna go and close the chain here. All right, now we have a decision. So decision one is we need a way to reload here, obviously, and the first decision is whether or not we want to make a gold fin. If we want to make a gold fin, there's some risk that like okay, so the risk here is basically if we try to crack gold, which we're definitely going to do this turn, and we draw a red off the top, the gold fin is obviously preferable because we want to be able to send 8 here. But if we draw a blue off the top, obviously I think we'd rather try to send the Kraken. So let's actually do some counting, like how many blues and reds have we seen? I think it might be slightly lower risk to just crack a gold now. Obviously there's some downside here, but I think let's crack the gold just so we don't enter that fail state of like not finding our resource card. And I think this actually works out quite well because now we get to gold to tip, Arsenal, we can Kraken, still send some decent damage here. I don't think this is a terrible spot to be in. Still have one more chum we have to worry about, but I think that's the kind of rationale for making a Goldfin, is that we have this fail state of if we draw one of our buffs and not a blue, then we get to send the Goldfin instead. So I think I don't mind this. Go ahead and arsenal the King Kraken, and then hope to maybe have some sunken treasure value this turn. I think that's going to be what we're going to try to go for, is hope that they maybe play out like a Jittery Bones or something. We get to sunken treasure their ally, and then that ruins their whole turn. Alright, they're just playing a chart the high seas, though. We might be in a bit of danger. Ooh, and there's the other chum. Okay. Yeah, if they can play out a chum this turn and get the full value, we might be in a bit of trouble. But if they attack first, and then we get to eat the chum, I think that basically will win us the game. Still also sitting on some armor, so I don't think we're in a terrible spot just yet. Oh, and this might be the Uber punish, right? They play out the Jittery Bones, discard the Rigor Mortis, and now we just don't even care about the chum anymore. Oh, this is perfect for us, I think. So let's get rid of, where's that chum? There he is. All right, chums are all out of the way, which is a great spot to be in. They can still play out the Rigor Mortis here, but I think that's fine. We've also seen 2 Conquerors out of the way, so I think we might, we only have to worry about one more. And if they did want to play out a Conqueror, it would have to be from like Arsenal or something. So I'd say we're in a very, very good spot at this point. And yeah, I almost wonder if they got a bit greedy there, playing the Jittery Bones over just like playing out the chum first and then swinging. But yeah, I think we're just going to say no blocks to this. So you have a blue on top. I don't know how much that would actually change. It could crack a gold just to... Oh, they did have the money remount. So this is attack. When this attacks here, you may wager... Yeah, so we will have to block here just to stay alive, but I think that's fine. We've already gotten most of the utility out of our equipment, so at this point, I think we're just trying to kill. I feel like this was kind of actually maybe a little bit of a below average game for us. We did get to go first, so that's always quite nice, but we did get our hook broken. We saw 3 chums this game. So I'd say that like maybe a little bit of a below average state. Let's go ahead and give the armor here. I think giving up Tunic and Sea Lace are both fine. So we'll drop to 2 here. But they will also drop to 5. So basically any overpower will do it here. All right, so let's go ahead and start by trying to use our big game trophy shot. I think there's also like maybe some merit to not big game trophy shot. You're just sending him for 10. But I think I'm going to get a little bit greedy here just to see if we can push over. And it looks like we are going to be able to push over here. Do we want to crack a gold? I feel like there's not really a downside. Like if we draw a red, we can still pitch the same amount, right? So let's actually just see what if we draw into like more blues, honestly, I think that now we have the upside of like drawing into like a 0 for 3. And I think that this is basically going to be the last turn of the game. So let's go ahead and just dump our gold here. All right, Codex of Frailty, that's a good arsenal. So I think I'm happy still with that gold result. And then we'll just fire in with the King Kraken, and this should probably close the game. They'd have to have like a very specific set of cards in hand, like some D-Reacts or something to cover this. And even then, they're probably going to still take a fair bit of damage. So I'd say pretty likely we end up killing here. Right, maybe Desperation Gravy. Right, discarding a Scuba, that's fine. And yeah, seems like no D-React in hand, so that closed the game pretty easily. So that's kind of like how the Gravy matchup goes. I think the Swells really overperform in this matchup. And then also just like the 1 for 3s, like the Sleep Darts are also quite good. There have been some games where like the drill, like I honestly kind of like the 1 for 3 stat line a lot better than like the Drill Shot stat line, because Drill Shot typically doesn't clear a ton of allies, other than I guess like, well, let's see what allies it would clear. It would clear like Rigor Mortis, and that's basically about it in this deck. So honestly, there might be some merit to just like throwing in some extra 1 for 3s over the Drill Shots. I think that's like a pretty reasonable swap, especially if we're expecting a lot of Gravy in the upcoming meta, which I imagine he's not fully dead. Definitely just reduced in power though. But yeah, that's kind of how the Gravy matchup goes. So let's see if we can get another. All right. I think this is one of like Marlynn's rougher matchups. In general, for Fang, I think you want to be on Battering Bolts plus King Kraken. I know that there are some Fang lists that are running like some of the more attack action focused stuff. I think in general against Warrior, you kind of want to be on Kraken plus Battering Bolt. And then I guess the question is anything else we want to bring in. I think that's probably the swap. They're going to go first, which is definitely a little bit unfortunate, but yeah. We're going to run it, see how it goes. I think that this matchup is like historically quite bad, but I still like playing into it just because I think that Fang's like a pretty decent deck. So we have the Battering Bolt pretty early. I do want to try lean towards blocking more with this hand than possible because we do have some more powerful tools in the deck. So let's actually just like block 5, I think is the play I see. This will deny the Scar Tissue, which is nice. Or will at least attempt to deny it. They will pump over for 2 more, which is fine. So they'll get the first mark and then pitch the smoke out just to get a hand. Makes sense. So I think this is fine. And now the question I have is, do we want to try to quiver here? I do kind of want to get this Bolden Shot out of the hand, but there is always the risk that you hit Drill Shot. Could get punished. Maybe we also should have like held on a Tipple. I'm gonna go for it just to clear the Bolden Shot. I think that's pretty reasonable. There is like a fail state there where like if you hit Drill Shot on the top, you kind of just cry. But I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. All right, we're a little bit of a ways off the Drill Shot actually. So, this hand is awkward. Because obviously we want to load the Drill Shot and then like fire. So maybe we actually have to like pitch our Lace here. Yeah, I think this is a little unfortunate, honestly. Sometimes you just kind of like gotta deal with Marlynn hands. I think this is one of them. So I think here, yeah, so we found that. Not going to be a super great hand here. So I'll fire with the Drill Shot. I think we'll throw... Man, it's so awkward here. Actually, this isn't the worst thing in the world. We can pre-med Drill Shot and then just like quiver end of turn, see if we can hit one of our big harpoons. Did see one Battering Bolt, but I kind of just wanted to get that in the yard. I guess we also don't have to quiver, right? Because if we get a Ponder here, assuming that they're going to let this hit, this could actually be quite decent for us. So let's go ahead and get a counter on, I guess, the Grains here. And then I don't think we're going to quiver now that we do get the Ponder token. But yeah, I'd say it's a pretty weak turn 1 from us. All right, let's go ahead and Arsenal a Tipple. And then we do have the ability to potentially make a gold here, although no yellows in the graveyard yet for Sunken Treasure. So we might end up having to like discard one of our big game trophy shot or something, which is also fine, but not obviously ideal. I think we actually just have to let this hit. Like, there's not really a super reasonable way to avoid getting hit here. We could also just like give up on this hand and just like let ourselves take the damage here. But I'm not in love with that either. Yeah, I think we're just gonna take the 5 here. Seer of Bloodshed, unfortunately, is gonna be like a 0 for 7, but very oftentimes it's gonna be a 0 for 7 anyways. Two fealty online. Potentially a bit scary. It looks like I say they won't get a fealty off this, which is at least nice. So yeah, unfortunately, we're kind of gonna have to keep a little bit of a mid hand here. I think our play is to maybe just tipple away the Codex of Bloodrot, and then maybe like big game trophy shot off the gold. Not super ideal, I'd say. Is there anything better we can do actually? We could get rid of the big game trophy shot and then just like go for the Bloodrot. I think this hand's very awkward. So let's, I guess, start with the gold bait hook because this might, or actually, they have like free armor block on the Valiant Dynamo, so maybe that's not actually worth it. Let's go ahead and tipple, and I think we're gonna lean towards getting rid of the Codex of Bloodrot. Right, Elephant Harpoon could be okay. So we need to hit a blue off the top here. And if we don't, we're in a bit of danger. The nice thing about big game trophy shot is that we do get to draw, then discard. So we can kind of use our draw to kind of inform what we want to do here. So let's go ahead and play the big game trophy shot. If we draw blue, we're in business. If we don't draw blue, actually this is better because now we can King Kraken. So yeah, King Kraken is also actually quite nice here. So now we get to go bait hook for free and then send in for 14 here. pretty decent. I imagine we probably are just gonna eat a bunch of reaction blocks, but sometimes it is what it is. We need to try to find our three oaks and codexes this game. I think we stumbled a bit on the first turn, which is maybe partially my fault. Like, I think maybe there's an argument to trying to hold on to the tipple on that opening hand. Yeah, maybe if we held on to the tipple and blocked like 5 with a different set of cards on the first turn, maybe it would have been a little bit better. All right, but looks like we are going to eat a fair bit of armor here. I imagine they maybe just have a D-React to cover the rest. Makes sense. So we did eat a lot of their armor, so if we can keep up the disruption from this point, or if we can draw well, draw into our like 3 oaks or codex, I think we can maybe try to pull back a little bit of the tempo here. This hand is surprisingly okay, I would say. So they're going to get the third mark here, but I don't think we can reasonably stop it. I think we'll just let them have it. All right, Imperial Tent is not that bad, just a 0 for 3. So not the worst card in the world to see right now. I think we're just going to try to aim to fire this Redfin Harpoon and then use the Eye of Ophidia to kind of opt towards our better cards. All right, Yellow Scar Tissue also very, very fine with. So we are at a bit of a life deficit here, but we also are sitting on some armor, and we've kind of bought back a bit of tempo. So I think this is actually good for us. All right, let's go for the take game. Load the Redfin, then Eye plus Yellowfin. We're basically just going to opt anything to the bottom that's not a power card. I'd say Big Game Trophy Shot's not really a power card when we're not sitting on any gold. And I think we're just firing off the Redfin. The only question is whether or not we want to hook. So we have 3 block here. Potentially another maybe like 6 or 7 block in hand. This is coming in for 11. So there is a real chance that the gold baited hook will blow up here. But we will eat all of the armor. I think I honestly want to get a bit greedy here. All right, this is going to be a greedy hook, but I think it makes a bit of sense. Like, they have to have a very specific set of cards to actually block this efficiently. So we have 3 block here. We have 3 block in hand from, I'm assuming they have like an attack react. Then maybe we have like a D-React in hand, but that's still 10 block. So they have to have like double D-React here to cover this. Double 0 for D-React rather. Or alternatively, they have to give me like 3 attack reacts that are 3 blocks plus maybe like 2 pieces of armor. So if we can just like claw back the tempo here, I think that's like, I think wasting the hook here or wasting it, I think makes a bit of sense just to like see if we can put him off tempo. All right, so it looks like they maybe have 0 for 4 react here. Okay, so we still eat 3 cards here. I think this is not actually the worst use of gold baited hook. I think if we just keep the Fang off the tempo, I think that's going to be really what kind of helps us this game. All right, this hand is rough. So we can take aim the Bolton shot, otherwise not super exciting. Oh wait, are they? Oh, they did have to go down to 2 fealty though, so that's really good for us. So actually, I think that gold baited hook was kind of fine. Let's go ahead and just fire off a mid arrow turn. We're really kind of suffering from the lack of. Oh, sorry. Whoops. I reload the wrong card. My bad. All right, let's load the Bolton shot. This hand is like pretty bad, especially since we just like have not seen our 3 oaks and codexes at all. But can't really complain too much about 11. It's bad, but it's passable. And like we did take him off the fealty as well, so I think this still makes a fair bit of sense. All right, so we'll go ahead and pass back to them. I'm still really struggling to just find any action in this hand. Sometimes you gotta remind yourself that you just like did not see Codex or 3 Oak, and that's kind of like ultimately why you're losing. Alright, so we're gonna be taking a fair bit of damage here. And they also have the Twist and Turn, which is gonna enable them to swing another dagger. Right, some interesting ones in this deck, like Diced. It's definitely a card I don't see a ton of. I think it makes sense as like a yellow though. So I imagine we're gonna go Dagger Swing into another Dagger Swing into maybe React on this first one, so they get to pump over. Oh, so there's the Imperial Intent. Seems pretty good. I think we just honestly, I am like halfway tempted to just like get rid of this hand, but I think we just need to try to put them off cards on the next turn. So yeah, we'll go down to 8 here. There's maybe some merit to blocking a bit more this turn. Like maybe we're supposed to block on like the twist and turn there. And just like try to get rid of hand cards in hand to try to draw towards our power cards. Maybe that might have been a little bit better. Alright, so we're gonna start with the port side. Probably just discard our blue here. Alright, we draw another blue, which is fortunate. But we're still in pretty bad shape here, I'd say. We get to send the red fin. Most likely they're gonna end up blocking here with like 2-piece armor plus like attack reactor, de-react here. Yep, so there's a smoke out. Fortunately, at least they won't mark us here, but I feel like we're past the point of the mark mattering a ton. Yeah, I think we are pretty damn close to dead. But also just like no 3-oak, no codex. So sometimes like with this deck you do have to like remind yourself how bad your draw is. But I do think I also made like a couple of mistakes this game, but I don't know if the mistakes necessarily would have mattered. I guess we can try to like play towards our out of drawing into 3-oak or codex. Like maybe we just need to block out this turn. But feels pretty bad. Like it's kind of crazy how important both 3-oak and codex are to just getting the value of this deck. So we're gonna Arsenal the pre-med here. Hope that they can't kill us on the next turn. We can maybe block a bit and then just try to rip something good. Alright, 5-card Fang hand. Let's hope it's not too good. Alright, still no codexes. I mean, this is technically a codex, but like I don't really count this as like a real codex. And we pretty much have to start blocking. I mean, I actually don't think there's a way to win from this point, but we'll give it our best shot. I guess we do get to make a gold here, which you can maybe make like a gold pin harpoon or whatever. But yeah, not seeing your power cards is pretty rough with this deck, I'd say. You do also have a lot of digs in this deck. So like you're more likely than not to find your power cards, but like some games like this, you just like don't see them. All right, so let's give up the Sauron here. And then regardless of what we do, it's like pretty bad. I guess let's block 5 and hope we don't die, but it's still pretty likely that we die here. We can't like win though if we block anymore. I think I'd rather at least try to win than just die. So yeah, seems like we unfortunately just like did not get there. That's okay. So important thing to note. So let's actually take a look at like where our pitch was. So I think this was the start of our pitch, right? Because we had the Lace with Blood Rot and we'll give him a good game. So I think we pitched the Lace plus the pre-med on the first turn, right? So that means that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 cards left in deck out of a 35 card deck, which means that we had seen 11 cards. That means that there are 24 cards left in the deck that we did not get to see. So of our 6 power cards, we basically did not get to see. They were basically in the bottom 24. So maybe even more than the bottom 20. I don't know if this Bolden Shot was in there too. It might have been. Yeah, but this unfortunately our good cards were kind of like at the bottom of our deck. Let's actually kind of do the math here because it's kind of helpful to at least remind yourself like how bad your draw is. So let's go to my results, or actually I think it's the stats tab. So let's so we have 6 copies in the deck that we want to draw, and our hand size is 36. So the desired quantity that we want to see at least one card is okay. So I think actually, well, yeah, okay. So if you show the detail mode, it's basically that. But unfortunately, I think we found ourselves in the 0.3% of games where we just like did not see our power cards, which is fine. Like sometimes that happens, but I think it's also like good to remember yourself when you're playing a deck that has a bit of variance, and like any deck that has power cards, which are most decks in FaB, like it's helpful to kind of keep in mind that stats. So I think 36 here, right? Or let's actually say 30. So copies of deck. So we, or no, sorry, 6 here. We'll do a, let's even see what the 37 hand size was, because I think that for this one, so it was maybe like a 0.2, 0.3. I don't know if we had that 37th card, but 36, 37.3% chance that we didn't see it. But yeah, it's helpful to remember, like, when you're playing a high variance deck, to just, like, know when you're having bad RNG and know when you're misplay. I think we did a bit of both that game. So just something to keep in mind. Yeah, let's see if we can get one last game. Maybe against another gravy. All right, let's see how this goes. So definitely water swells. I think last time we boarded out the Codex of the Blood Rat, I think that's still correct. There is also like so battering bolt. I don't think this affects allies because the allies are still actions, right? So I don't think battering bolt's actually what we want at all. Yep, let's run it like this. See how it goes. Probably just gonna end up doing a bit of blocking on turn 1 here, so they're gonna opt to go first this time. Yeah, I don't think battering bolt hits anything in gravy if I'm thinking about it now. I mean, I normally don't even consider that card. I'm trying to think if there's like actually anything it hits in gravy. Does it hit the allies? I thought the allies were actions. I could be mistaken. It's kind of maybe a phrasing thing. So what is this? Yeah, it's an action ally, right? So it does not hit anything, I don't think, in gravy. Alright, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to really use our sunken treasure here. I imagine they might not even be attacking into us in the first place. But I think I'm more than happy to just leave this Oyston alive for the entire game. I think it's like pretty low value. It's kind of just like a weapon swing more than anything. Oh, interesting. They're going to go for some more gravying here. Right, getting a scuba potentially online as well. Yep, so they're going to just start with some 2 allies on the field, which I don't actually think we care about. These are like 2 of the allies I think we can most ignore. So we'll start with the Marlynn activation here. I think we're just going to big game trophy shot and hope to hit a blue or a yellow off the top, both of which I think are acceptable. Yep, blue is perfect here. So I get to load in the King Kraken and fire it off. And then we're going to go off an Arsenal here, but I think it's fine a lot of the time to go off an Arsenal into Gravy, especially if we're going to be threatening some gold here, which I assume we're almost certainly going to hit. They would need something like double Gear React to really cover this, I think. I think I'm okay with it. Funny thing about Fearless Confrontation is notably you cannot ungive something overpower, which is kind of hilarious. Also very funny that they printed that in a Guardian supplement product. It's like Guardian hate. I don't know. Always kind of hilarious. All right, so it looks like they're going to give us the portside exchange here. I think that's good. Now we're going to be sitting on potentially up to 3 gold, two gold guaranteed here, but we're in a pretty good spot, I think. All right, so we can't, unfortunately, or we can actually take their rigor mortis here. The only downside is we'd like put it in the graveyard, but we would get an extra gold. I think there's pros and cons. I'm like halfway tempted to leave them with this, but I think on the whole, it's probably fine to just put it in the graveyard. I don't really care that much about rigor, especially when they only have the scuba here. And I think the 3rd gold might be a little bit more important than like the potential to give them a little bit more extra value. All right, this hand could be good. Just needs, I think, a little bit of help. All right, starting with the prismatic ley line. So maybe we're gonna swell and then attack with ally. get the nice little 5 value there. You also play out the Rigger attack with that. So yeah, pretty good turn from them. I think our plan here is I'm assuming we're probably gonna drop to like 2 gold here, depending on what they do. I assume that this is almost certainly gonna be a hook here. They might be considering not hooking though, which would probably be pretty good for us. If our hand blocked a bit better, I think there maybe is a consideration to riggering here or to just blocking here. But I think we don't really care about just 10 damage really, or I think it's 10 plus 2 extra damage. All right, so they are gonna go for the hook here. But I think it's too inefficient to not just play out our codex here. So we're gonna let them steal a gold. I think that's fine. We'll obviously be able to steal it back at some point, and then they'll be able to scuba. Oh, they could scuba, even put a yellow card. So they actually cannot get rid of our King Kraken here, which is quite nice. But they can put a Prismatic Leyline potentially back in their deck. So yeah, as long as we're not getting rid of the King Kraken, I think we're fantastic. But I don't think they actually have the option here to really get rid of it. All right, making a bunch of golds. I think that's fine. They have a bunch of allies on the field, but like we really don't care unless they find a way to like capitalize on it. Most of the time, that's like a Basti, which you just saw in pitch 2, which is also really good. So what are we doing here? So how did the resources work out here? So we can codex. So an option here I see is we can like codex, discard off gold, pitch the Redfin, do some stuff that way. Is it the best line though? Like, does cracking gold actually help us anymore? I think the answer is no, right? We just want to try to send a King Kraken at them. The King Kraken obviously kind of sucks a bit, but if we can get them to just kind of like full block on it, or they just take the... I think like this actually might be a decent opportunity to just give our hook here, just to see if we can force them to full block it. Because like as it is now, we're not going to be able to overpower. So I think using this gold baited hook to like threaten the additional gold here might be pretty relevant. So yeah, let's go ahead and try that. I'm not super thrilled with this, but I think it's probably better than just trying to like pump a bunch of gold for no reason. They do also have to discard, so I feel like this gold baited hook actually has like a semi-real chance of doing some work here. Now they have to choose a card to also discard. So discard Scuba, that's fine for us. So I think we are gold baiting hook here, especially now that they're on 3 cards in hand. Seems pretty likely that we're going to be able to connect and get some gold and blood rot here. I think this is a game where you kind of more so want to ignore the allies that just like do not matter, which is like Rigor Mortis, Oyston, Scuba. Like I think these all are kind of functioning as like kind of the same ally. The Rigor is probably the most annoying, but just because it comes in for 6. But none of these have like go again or anything, right? So it's really up to them to find their cards to like give go again, like the tip of the bar keeps and everything. Right, seems like they're maybe just gonna let it hit here. So we get a nice little 14 value here, plus get to steal some of their gold, which is also quite nice. They're probably going to just steal it back, but at least it means that we're going to be sitting on 1 gold. All right, and they're going to reveal a Restless Bones, which you also don't really care about, I don't think. It is nice, like, numerically, but I think that we more so care about disruption than anything. Ooh, and 3 Oak is a pretty good one to Arsenal. It's like, okay. I mean, it's pretty good now that we drew the King Kraken, but obviously there's a little bit of anti-synergy between the 3 Oak and the Codex. But you still have to play both. You still have to run both. Not much you can do. If you draw them both together, hope you Arsenal the Codex over the 3 Oak, I guess. All right, just coming in for 3 off the top. Seems good. So we know they have a Restless Bones in hand and a Swell in Arsenal. So they can play a Swell here, which would give them a bit of extra value. If they wanted to, but they would lose the damage on it from the Frailty. But yeah, we kind of just like, at this point, do not care about any of their allies. They have to kind of make us care about the allies, which I think is important to kind of note. Right, barkeep, also fine. So now this is kind of like one of their ways to like go a bit wider, is like Gold Kiss Rum. So they can like maybe do like a 10 damage turn here or something. They still have that Restless Bones in hand though. So I'm almost kind of curious why they didn't try to like play that or anything. Maybe they just want to like sit on Swell, which is also semi-reasonable. I think here we're just going to soak up a bit of damage. I think we're going to soak up a bit of damage here and then just try to go for the 3-oak off the pre-med. We also have our tuna counter up, so even if we like whiff on blues, it's still pretty likely that we're going to be able to send the King Kraken for 13. And then they're also going to be dropping to 15 here off the Blood Rot, which is also quite good. All right, so let's go ahead and now start with the pre-med. Then we 3-oak, load the Kraken, fire it off. I'm assuming we're probably going to be able to overpower it, but obviously there are draws in the deck which would make that not possible. Right, and we hit here, which is great. So I think here we're going to arsenal the big game trophy shot because we're pretty far ahead on tempo and there's not any allies we immediately care about. And we're also sitting on a pretty fat stack of gold. So I think here I'm also fine just like throwing the hook on it and just seeing how they respond. Like if they block it out, we're at the point of the game where like we are not going to get that many more hook activations. So at this point, I'm kind of just okay if this leaves at some point. We could have also blocked with it last turn if we knew that we're going to get a little bit riskier with it, but I think it's maybe fine. Like if we lose it here, we're losing a point of value. Not the end of the world. All right, we see the Loan Shark block. So it seems like we're connecting here. And then hopefully they have another non-attack in hand. I think that would be the ideal scenario. Right, Avasti is definitely, well, actually, they already have a Gold Kiss Rum, so yeah, it's definitely Avasti. If they didn't have a Gold Kiss Rum, I guess the gold, I think it's still better to take Avasti there, right? Because you can, you can get the go again without having to, like, tap your hero, I guess. But basically the same card there, right? The only difference is, since they have the Gold Kiss Rum, giving them another Gold Kiss Rum is basically irrelevant. But yeah, this is a really good hand. I think the worst card that we can see at this point, I actually don't know if there's anything super, super bad. Because I don't think they really have the ability to go again, make gold. I guess they could with the Gold Kiss Rum and like Scuba. But even then, there's not a ton of like actual disruption they can draw into. Like maybe they draw into Loot the Hold or something. And maybe that's a little bit scary, but we still have a lot of block value in our hand. So I'd say I feel pretty confident here. We also have this Swell plus Eye combo, which is kind of nasty. So we're pretty likely to also like hit a blue off the top as well. But yeah, I think we're just going to take the damage off the rigger here. They obviously get the gold baited hook, but we're sitting on 4 gold anyway, so pretty irrelevant. It does mean that they get to potentially draw whatever is on top of their deck, which could get a little bit scary. But there's only so many good draws in their deck, I think. Like, it's basically Conquer at this point, or like Loot the Holds are kind of like the 2 most annoying ones. But even Loot's not that bad because we can just like gold baited plus Sea Lace on something, I assume. All right, gonna play a Limpet, maybe get an extra couple points of value here. But yeah, they're just sitting on a board of allies, and we kind of just like do not care. Maybe they send another Scuba here, also perfectly fine, I think. Yeah, not much I'd say we really care about at this point. All right, and then there's the Oyston. So I think here we'll just give the gold baited hook just to stay a little healthy, but there's no real reason to. It's probably just because either we're going to lose the next turn or we're going to win the game. Also pads the life total for stats purposes, obviously. All right, so let's start, I think, with the Swell before we trophy shot, right? I think we're sending face with this. And then just trying to inform our draw here. So C4 salvage a Bolton shot. So 2 blues on top is actually kind of fine. I guess the question is, do we need the extra blue? Maybe we don't actually need the extra blue. Maybe we just try to pitch the Bolton shot here. I think this works out because we don't necessarily want to draw like an extra blue. Like I feel like more than likely than not, we're gonna try to fire off this yellowfin harpoon depending on how it goes. But we could also end up just like sending a goldfin for lethal. All right, so let's start like cracking a gold to Marlynn, and then we'll big game trophy shot. Ooh, 3 oak is a fantastic draw. So yeah, now we're discarding the harpoon and just going for a fuck huge arrow. Lace. We could consider starting to crack like maybe 1 gold. I think it's kind of irrelevant at this point, so we might as well just take a look. All right, gold tip. All right, so we're gonna set up ourselves up for a pretty big harpoon here potentially. So I guess that's the reason why you look, is you could see a 0 for 3 buff on top. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty big harpoon, I'd say. So we're looking at 18. And I guess the question is, what do we want to hit? Probably just bluefin, right? Pitch the, I think we actually pitch the red fin here and just try to arsenal yellowfin. I don't think it's going to matter very much. And I guess we can also slap the gold bait hook here because it's almost certainly hitting. And yeah, we'll send it at face here. I know it's very tempting to consider clearing a scuba, but I think 18 damage at face is maybe better than 18 damage at scuba. And yeah, like this kind of is a good game to illustrate, I guess, the allies that you have to care about versus the allies that you don't have to care about. So like, we don't have to care about any of these, right? It's the chums and the other things that we're really kind of scared of. So it looks like they just kind of didn't see them that game. Although actually, let's take a look at their deck list. They're running 3. Okay, they're running 3 chums. They're running with the hold, so we didn't see any sawbones either. I think that's another pretty big one. Yeah, but I think that game basically went about as well as it could have. We kind of just dodged a lot of their disruption, and then also kind of just like aggroed their, like we kind of just ignored their allies and then just like aggroed their face, which is I think a perfectly viable strategy. And then obviously I think Swell is just like very, very impressive with this matchup. I hope the first and the second game kind of like illustrate that, because I think that this card has been an overperformer into this matchup. So if you expect a lot of gravy, I think Swell is a very reasonable kind of like sideboard piece. All right, but I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. So thank you all for watching. This is it's actually kind of funny that this deck is called Drop the Inca still, but I think we cut Drop the Inca because it's not as good as Swell. But anyways, thank you all for watching. Again, we're gonna probably do some more Marlynn content in the future when that they code the new card Catch of the Day. I think that card's really cool. If you haven't seen it, I think we can pull it up here real quick. So if you haven't seen the new Catch of the Day card, I think it should be at the bottom here. This card I think is like surprisingly good, just being like a 0 for 2 3-block buff that you can easily kind of include in your Marlynn deck, and it's like fairly low opportunity cost. I really actually like this card. I think that there are going to be a lot of games where you just pitch this the majority of the time, and that's fine. But the games where you play this card and you like end up hitting with it, maybe you don't get the full value on it or whatever. But just being a 0 for 2 buff, if you ignore the line of text, is just like super cool and interesting. So very big fan of this card. Yeah, but anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. And a special thank you to all the folks who decided it would be a good idea to give us $2 on Patreon. We really appreciate the support, but it's obviously never required.